There is a reason that the WWE is pushing the concept of a greatest wrestling match ever, and you might be surprised to find it has nothing to do with putting on a great match. No, it's about cornering the market and making sure that the WWE stay at the top of the game ahead of any competitors. I'm Tom Collique, please take a moment to hit like, and we will continue on the topic of how Google ranking and SEO is defining WWE storylines. Now I'll start by saying, what would you consider to be the greatest wrestling match ever? If you're not sure, that's fine. You can search the internet, you can find plenty of options and review the opinions of some others. You may look at some of the list videos and articles that are over on Cultaholic. You may look at the list of 5-star and above matches on the Wrestling Observer. You'd get a good list of things to watch, but they would not all be WWE. In fact, if you went by the 5-star list, you'd probably be watching mostly New Japan Pro Wrestling. WWE, however, have a major technological advantage that ensures that if you are searching for the greatest wrestling match ever, you're going to land on a WWE match, or at least get the impression that the WWE is the only wrestling promotion available. Websites have something called a domain authority, which is a measure of how well something ranks on a search engine. This is a score out of 100, measured both by how popular a website is, and additionally how many backlinks exist from other websites to that website in the beginning. WWE's is undoubtedly very high, which is why chances are if you search for anything wrestling, you'll be flooded with WWE results. However, Google, most popular of all search engines and probably one of the most used websites in the world, is friendly to particular phrases and questions. For example, the greatest wrestling match ever. If at any point you search for what is the greatest wrestling match ever, or you just want to see a Google representation of the greatest wrestling match ever, chances are even before the match has happened, you're being fed to Edge and Randy Orton. Another example of the WWE doing this is with the drunk driving angle for Jeff Hardy on SmackDown recently. This was a kayfabe storyline, but Jeff Hardy does have known issues with drink and substance abuse, so for a few people this did hit quite close to home. This was apparently the intention, not necessarily to unsettle people, but to be a little too close for comfort to the reality of the situation for Jeff Hardy. Due to WWE's domain authority and some clever phrasing, if you search for Jeff Hardy arrest, one of the things that does come up just from WWE is the storyline arrest. That will be in there amongst many others which cover actual arrests and the like. This essentially means that either you or I as a reporter try to research into Jeff Hardy's past a little further, Google will immediately steer us towards WWE content, which is kayfabe. This is a very new version of kayfabe. Now, in no way can the WWE essentially erase history, and when you do that search you will find a lot of accurate real-life reports due to the domain authority of websites that cover those. However, there will be just enough information for someone searching this to wonder. Additionally, websites which cover wrestling have their own domain authority, which means that anyone who has covered or recapped what happened on SmackDown with Jeff Hardy may be further clogging up the zone and creating the image that this is just a storyline. Sportskeeda, for example, has a score of 89 out of 100, which is a very good score that we've achieved largely through the reporting of exclusives that other websites will link back to. As we also cover SmackDown with live shows and recaps and a bit of in-depth coverage, that means that our own name and our own coverage will appear in that list, further confusing reality. This is something that we're seeing with news articles and news reports in real life outside of the wrestling bubble pretty much every day. This is one of many ways in which fact and fiction are being blurred at the moment. In the course of doing our job, wrestling journalists are clogging up search engines, which helps Google and others steer the conversation in the direction that it wants its viewers to see. Google, of course, is promoting business, and WWE is a business, and that is why it has the score it does, and why it gets pointed to in the direction that it does. Domain authority is something that is key for most businesses that have an online presence. Negative responses to the concept of Edge versus Orton as the greatest wrestling match ever only feed this issue, which potentially means that you could be going through pages upon pages of people saying that this is or isn't the greatest wrestling match ever before you ever get close to a non-WWE match being in that search engine. Essentially, if you search for the greatest wrestling match ever, you'll get a lot about whether this match is or isn't, but it's going to be a while before you have a second match even come up. I've spoken with colleagues and internal sources, both within the WWE and over at Fox, who are part of the storytelling narrative over on SmackDown, and this is apparently part of a cohesive strategy to dominate new airwaves. By new, of course, they're referring to the internet, and while it's not potentially new per se, it is not so much TV, and that changes the aspect of that slightly to a more new wave and new media domain. WWE's YouTube channels and the network are considered to be strong profit sectors going forwards, especially with the current situation, what with ticket sales being down because there are no crowds, so they can't sell any tickets, but additionally because of the WWE network moving into a tiered system full time going forwards. YouTube, while not a particularly strong earner right now, has a very high profit ratio to the cost of running it. For example, a video may take an hour to put together, but since they already own the footage, that is something on YouTube that will get hundreds of thousands, if not potentially millions of views, and all it will cost them to make is the cost of an hour of someone's time. Now, I don't know how much the WWE pay their editors, but their editors do great work, so hopefully it's quite a bit. It certainly won't be enough to cover the entire earning that they have from that YouTube clip that may only be 3 or 4 minutes long. There is a backstage push within the WWE at the moment, not just to drive viewership to Raw and SmackDown, but also to drive viewership towards long-term content. This is one of the reasons we're seeing full matches appearing on the WWE YouTubes, because they can put them up, they can get a ton of views on them, they can delete them and bring them back later, and do the exact same thing again, with really the only thing they've done is plug in an external hard drive and click upload. Being able to say that they broadcast the greatest wrestling match ever, whether true or not, is something very close to their aims, and it does help them corner that market. When I pointed out to a source that many wrestling fans may find this cynical, I was told that it was just good business and something that most intelligent companies are actively engaging in. As regards more traditional media, I was told that the broadcast of the Evolution pay-per-view on FS1 was to be a trial to see how much viewership they got to determine whether or not an Evolution 2.0 event would be feasible. This is something that has come up for a lot of backstage discussion over the last couple of years since the first event. This is not the only reason by any means, but it is close to the reasons I was given for why ESPN got WrestleMania events to show, and they did very well in their viewership. WWE are looking to sell pay-per-view rights to other channels and streaming services, but in order to do that, and in order to earn the money that they are hoping to get for them, the idea is that they will be able to show that there is a demand, and that is why they are being broadcast on channels now for trials and teasers to show the demand and to prove that they are worth the money that they are going to be charging. Now, Backlash is this Sunday, and the supposed greatest wrestling match ever has already been filmed. I'm excited to see what they deliver, but for what happens next, it's a key factor that anyone who hasn't really watched wrestling or hasn't watched it recently, if they search for wrestling matches, or greatest wrestling match, or greatest wrestling match ever, this will be the match that they are directed to by search engines and by the WWE. I guess it makes sense then that it's taking place between two wrestlers with almost 5 decades of experience between them. A lot of people know the names Edge and Randy Orton, and it makes them less likely to click off. I've been Tom Colahue, and thank you very much for watching.